Okay.
Sorry, I'm just playing with this to see how to advance it. Okay, I have to do it that way. Okay. So hi, how's everybody doing? So I want to welcome you. We've already done 8 of our sessions, and now the ninth one. Last week we talked about some details how to do outreach. And again, I encourage questions if there's something you don't understand. Also, at the end, after our first hour, we will talk more in depth about personal questions. I had a wonderful suggestion given to me just before we started, and I want to work on that because I was even thinking today, because I came in like maybe 4 minutes before 7. Usually we start at 7. That is so unusual for me. If I have a presentation at 12 noon, let's say in a school, I'm there at least parking by 11:15, and I'm usually walking in the building 11:30, 11:40 at the very latest. And I've already talked ahead to somebody about, which room and things, and I get my contact person. So I don't want to hear about traffic. For people to slide in as everybody's sitting there waiting for them, it really kind of sets a bad tone. So I'm kind of a stickler about that. But so we want to talk about relationship intelligence. We've talked about, physical consequences of uncommitted sex. And when we talk about commitment, we're really talking about marriage. We're talking about a lifelong commitment that somebody's made with another person, because some people think, well, we're committed. We love each other. We're never breaking up with each other. Of course, they say this, but especially as teenagers, they're such a different person today than maybe they are even tomorrow. So that's why it's important to save big decisions for later. So we want to have relationship intelligence. And when I give this, and I've done Kane University, I've done a few colleges, few universities, the same program I give to high school students, I give to young adults. When I'm giving to parents, we do have a parent workshop to talk more about the brain development and skills to help them speak with their children. But we give the same program, and people have flashbacks like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? Now I understand why that relationship didn't work. I only blamed the other person. So it's really fascinating. So we want to talk about positive relationships. People always want to know about how to make love last. I want to see, does this show up on your screen at all as a full screen, or no?
Yeah.
It does show as a full screen? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's what I wanted to do. Thank you. So we want to talk about positive relationships, not just negative ones. So what are some of the qualities of positive relationships? I usually ask my audience, what are some qualities of positive relationships? Well, obviously based on respect and boundaries. So many times people are saying, well, they don't respect me. Well, are you giving respect? And how about boundaries? What does it mean to have boundaries? Usually it's real. If I'm going to play sports, I'm going to play baseball, I want to know all the rules. I want to know what I can and can't do. What's the goals and objectives to win? How many points is winning? And all of these things. So same thing with relationships. Okay, I'll go out with you, but what are we going to do? Okay, we're going to go to a movie. How about if we do something else? I don't really know you that well. Let's go for coffee. Let's go bowling. Something like that. Having boundaries, and just say, I prefer not to be alone with people that I don't know. If you're an adult, maybe you want to drive your own car. So if things are not working out so well, I encourage people to go Dutch treat. Back in the day when I was young, 100 years ago, the guy paid for the date because the guys usually had better paying jobs or worked, and a lot of females didn't work. We were going to be housemakers, and so it's very different. So also we want to be able to disagree without a grudge and make up without a grudge. A lot of times people say, okay, I forgive you. but then they keep this in their heart and they kind of always throwing it back in your face. We want a shared view of right and wrong. Some people think, I'm a one-woman man, I don't mess around. If I'm just even dating somebody, I focus on that one person unless we've made another agreement. And somebody else might say, hey, I like to play the field, but you're not communicating this to somebody. And somebody might be getting their hopes up. They think that, you're being very friendly and they may misunderstand it. So we really want to, that's why it's good to, take it slow. I think that's what the whole message is, taking it slow, being a good listener. Sometimes it means biting our tongue. I'm an educator. It's really, sometimes I hear what people are saying, but I need to hear everything they're saying. And becoming a good listener and knowing each other's faults and caring about each other anyway. What's important to understand is some people think, I'm going to change this person. How about if they had this fault that you find very annoying and it never changed? Would that be okay? Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's cute and adorable. Also, that we can count on each other. When things are going good and we're in the fuzzy wuzzy stage, everything is great. But can we really count on each other in the difficult times as well? Can you also relax and be yourself? This is what's really important. Sometimes I'll watch The Big Bang Theory, and when somebody's attracted to somebody, they feel they have to put on this big act, and I have to drink or, put on a show that's not really them. Can you really be yourself with this person? How about if we go to the bank and we put $500 in, but then you take $300 out. Oh, it's okay. Next week you get your paycheck. You put in 50 and you take out another 100. What's happening to your bank account? Is it getting bigger or smaller? It's getting smaller. Is it collecting more interest or less interest? A lot less interest. Well, the same thing with relationship withdrawals. If we don't nurture a relationship, it's the same thing as a bank account or a garden. I'm a gardener. How about if I plant, I put fertilizer in it, I water, seeds, a little sprout grows up, and then I don't do anything. What happens? It withers and dies. And that's what happens to a lot of relationships. One withdrawal, they call it disinvestment. You're taking away from the relationship. You're not giving, seeking first to be understood. It's all about me, myself, and I. We'll talk about you later. It's, I need to feel understood. Breaking a promise or manipulating people. They always have an excuse why they broke the promise. I didn't want to make you mad. I lied. So manipulating people, sometimes, they say, if it looks too good to be true, it's too good to be true. It's just like buying a car, Being unkind, being disrespectful. Nowadays, it's the culture to be disrespectful. Our slang terms dealing with sex, relationships, it's like people are afraid to become vulnerable to somebody. They're afraid to be themselves. So they want to act tough. They want to act very disrespectful, curse a lot. Being unkind, they feel that makes them more respected, having people fearful of them. Assuming expectations, that means you assume somebody can read your mind. They know you like chocolate ice cream and they purposely are not getting it for you. You're assuming expectations. Being disloyal, being dishonest. I always feel whenever I want to do something wrong in a relationship, I pretend that person is standing right behind me, watching me, hearing everything I say. Would I say and do those same things if that person was there? Then if I would, then I'm not being disloyal, being honest. But if I would hide it, disloyal to the absent, the person that's not there. Being prideful, arrogant, holding a grudge. This happens, somebody did a year ago, that person's still throwing in your face. Oh, but what about this? Every time there's an argument or just a disagreement, they're throwing in your face. They're like a dog with a bone. They just can't let it go. Being prideful, arrogant. Again, I'll say, people always like to say money is the root of all evil. I say, no, it's self-centeredness. Self-centeredness is the root of all bad things. And giving the you message, that means you made me angry. You made me late. You make me sick. One guy said, whenever one finger is pointing at you, three fingers pointing at myself. Can I really make you angry? Yeah. Can you make me angry? No. I choose to be angry, or I choose to get over it. So the you message is a real killer in relationships. Now, some of you already have this book. It's called Relationship Intelligence. This is typically more for our high school and college, like even part 4. We never give this in middle schools. We would give it in adult workshops, or as the need, like Carol was mentioning, maybe somebody wants to invite you to speak on something, you know, in relationships in general to an older audience. This would be great. Now, this is a person I know personally, and the workshop is like this. They gave their testimony, and then there's questions underneath. So students are invited to, you know, have their own workbook, or if you don't have workbooks, you can copy the sheet, hand them out, and make sure they put their name and room number. You would take them home, give them back later, or give it as homework. So it says, I never thought this would happen to me. This was by a 21-year-old college student who really felt she knows the ins and outs of relationships. She's not going to get played. She's really smart. She had her own job, her own car. I met my boyfriend, Brian, through one of my friends on MySpace. That was back in the day instead of Facebook or Snapchat. She told me he was a really good guy and that he lived 2 towns away from me. We emailed each other and talked on the phone for about 4 months. I knew he was going through a breakup with his girlfriend, and I wasn't looking for a relationship, just somebody to hang out with. I was attracted to him from the start. He was tall, dark, and very handsome, and he was very intelligent, and when he spoke, I was in awe. He had his own car, an apartment, and was working at a job where people would call in from businesses to help with their computers. I was wondering why his girlfriend would leave him when in my eyes, he was perfect. I would question him and he would just say, trust me, she had her reasons. But I never really thought much about it. He started to want to hang out every day and was always texting me and calling me throughout the night. He started getting mad if I didn't do what he wanted. It got to the point where I couldn't hang out with my friends or my family. For people who understand domestic violence, which can be dating violence, these are the first steps. You want to withdraw somebody from their friends and family. It has to be all about them. So when they have help, they have nobody to go to. If I told him I had plans, he told me that I didn't tell him, and now I couldn't go. If I was at his house. If I said I was having dinner with my family, he would start a fight with me on purpose and then say, you are not leaving now, and would make me stay at his house. He would take my keys and my phone away. Sometimes when we argued, he would shove me against the wall or slap my face. Later, he would apologize and take me to a good restaurant, buy me flowers or some other gift. He would talk about how he was abused growing up and watched his father beating up his mother. I felt sympathy for him, and I thought somehow I could help him change. Also, for a few weeks, I thought I might be pregnant with his baby. One night he said he needed to see me and came over to my house. I decided to tell him I wasn't happy in the relationship, and that made him angrier. I told him my parents didn't want me even being friends with him, which they thought that's all we were because of his temper. He was mad that they knew how he was treating me. He shoved me hard and I hit my head on the corner of the bookcase, cutting a deep gash in my scalp. My head began to bleed a lot. My parents heard me crying. They told Brian to leave and took me to the hospital emergency room. They gave me 10 stitches. I got a restraining order on. I feel that if my parents didn't step in, I probably would have stayed with him longer due to fear and still having feelings for him. So then a question would be, and I always let one or two of the audience read this. Then for questions, what warning signs should Darlene have noticed when she first started seeing Brian? Well, obviously I'll tell you a backstory. She got a restraining order, and then she knew actually the girlfriend that he had a broken heart over lived in the next town. She went to the next town and talked to her. She says, yeah, I signed a restraining order on him because after I had a first restraining order, he broke my arm. After he broke my arm, I got another restraining order on him. And, that's why, I totally broke up with him. So the two of them went 2 towns over they traced down 4 girlfriends, and they all had similar stories. Now, he said that she had good reasons, and she certainly did, but because she was totally blinded by the euphoria caused by the drugs in her brain, dopamine, norepinephrine. He could do no wrong. He was perfect. So obviously she didn't get to know him. And because she was delusional, because she felt, I really understand relationships and people, he's really a good person. So why did Darlene stay with Brian so long? Do you think that the fact they were having sex was one reason? Sexually active females are 5 times more likely to be victimized by dating violence. This is from Harvard School. What could have been done to find help and protection with Brian when he became violent? Well, ideally, our program, because people will know this in advance, and we can tell them resources, look them up, ask the guidance counselor if you're in a school, or whoever your host is. If somebody says domestic violence is not 2 married people. It's very rarely married people. It's people living together or even dating is called domestic violence. Ask your host, if they ask me for resources, who should I send them to? And they should do this, because within schools especially, there's laws that you're not supposed to take personal responsibility. You don't have the credentials. So and the reasons why she stayed with him, because once they're having sex, that becomes a bond with them. And plus, then she's worried he's the father of the child. She might have even tried to get pregnant. I don't know. Why do some people think it's okay to be violent with a party or family member? Should they get help or change? Whatever the reason, it's not their victim's fault. It's not their fault. And we need to understand these things before that's why we have the, ways to have positive relationships, and we'll talk about that. So that's how we do this dating violence one. So it's very interesting. So relationship deposits are so different. What happens? I have $500 in the bank, and then I want to go shopping. I took out 100, but I got my next paycheck. I put in another 200. Then I take out 50, but I put in 300. What's happening to our bank account? It's growing. It's collecting a lot of interest. It's definitely collecting my interest. And the bigger it grows, the more I want to invest. That's how relationships are. I'm not losing. Plus, it's a way to see if this is a relationship that's worth investing in as well. Same with money and love, I only invest what I'm willing to lose. I only invest what I'm willing to lose. So seek first to understand, get them to talk, find out more about them. If they have a lot of problems and issues, it's nice to be empathetic and understanding, but sympathetic is not a good thing, because then you feel like, oh, if I love them enough, they'll love me, they'll be healed. And it ain't happening. Being honest, keep your promises. Are they a person that keeps promises? Be open, receive feedback, try to understand that. And when they offer feedback or they're saying something, repeat it to them. Oh, okay, when I say this, you're feeling like that. Being open, whether you agree or not, it just tells you more about the person. Being kind, being courteous. These are things that really help in a relationship, and it opens up other people. And it's like putting out feelers. You see how they respond. Do they respond in kind? What you're doing here, are they investing the same way you are? Clarifying expectations, making it clear how you see the relationship, what you want. You might want to say, I'm just looking for somebody to hang out with and have fun. You're really interesting. I'm not really looking for a boyfriend or a girlfriend at this time. It's really important, because some people attach so easily, or they over-attach. And then it's a hard thing to straighten out later. And if they're really upset because you clarified expectation, well, that's all I wanted to. Well, they're kind of revealing something to you as well. Being loyal to the absent, like we were saying, Always pretend, even if it's your own children, pretend they're standing right behind you listening to everything you say. Would you want them to hear this? So it's not that you can't say things about people. Phrase it in such a way that if it got back to them, you'd say, well, I'm just speaking the truth. I'm not being mean. I'm not being hurtful. And also, we shouldn't put everybody else's business out there. Some people really don't like that. Apologizing and forgiveness. My brother and I don't get along, and I apologize all the time to him. And he has never once said, that's okay, I understand. So it shows me a lot, but he's just a really angry guy, too much dope. What are you going to do? I'm trying to keep a relationship with him, so it's apologize and forgiveness. Forgiving somebody is for who? Is it for the forgiver or the forgiven? We talked about this before. It's for the person doing the forgiving. It's the way, like in that movie, Let It Go, Let It Go. You kind of can let it go. Sometimes you don't even tell the person you forgive them. You just say, I forgive that person. And you just go on. There's nothing else you can do. Sometimes, most of us on this training we're older. We're not old, but we're older. We've had those experiences. What the heck was I thinking of? Well, a lot of times things are so strange, we don't know. That's why it's good. Always just take things slow so that you can find out about yourself, find out about the other person and the relationship, and giving the I message. When you say this, I feel like this. Who can argue with this? When you're saying this, I feel like you're not really understanding what I mean. When you say this, I feel kind of hurt. I'm putting it on me. I'm not saying you made me feel this way, but when you speak in that tone of voice, I really feel that it's very hurtful. It's hard for me. If somebody said that to me, believe me, I would be backpedaling and saying, I'm so sorry. I really didn't mean that. So you can tell I'm still working on myself. I'm still in the works. Relationship myths. Oh my gosh, especially I do speak in the hood a lot. They have myths on relationships that would just make you fall on the ground. And unfortunately, a lot of the kids have heard it from adults. One is that people just fall in love. Well, I'm here to say that if you could fall in love, what could you fall out of? You could fall out of love. Can you really change somebody else? Nope. And again, Dr. Pan's always liked to say, just imagine this person is like this today. And you're thinking, well, once we're together, once we get married, this will change. What if they were like this the rest of their life? Would that be a problem for you? They don't listen to you, or they're always getting high, whatever, so no, you cannot. Who can you change? I can change myself. We're always looking for somebody to make me happy. I have to make me happy. If I met the right one, the perfect one, if I haven't worked on myself, why would they want to be with me? If they're so perfect, I need to create myself, become a better person. Can rudeness be helped? Oh, Mom, I know he cursed at you. He can't really help it. His mother was always mean to him. Can rudeness be helped? Absolutely. Absolutely, it can be helped. And a lot of times people say, I can do bad by myself. I'd rather have a bad relationship. At least I could have, somebody, So you got the two extremes. I find a lot of people, more females than males, they've said, I have a bad relationship, but at least I have somebody to hang out with or go out with on the weekends. Yeah, it sucks, but at least I have somebody. No, it's better to find out, like Beyonce had the song, Me, Myself, and I. Find out who you are. Learn to stand on your own 2 feet. Also, just have good banging sex. That'll keep you together. Yeah, maybe while you're doing it, keep you together. Is it going to keep you together for the long term? No, it's not. It's not. And think back, especially when you were in high school, how many kids you knew once they had sex, they might have gone out with each other for a year maybe and not had sexual intercourse. Once they had sex, did they stay together? Usually that was the stake that drove both of them apart. I had this high school boy, he said to me, senior, Miss Linda, sometimes I'm thinking about that person day and night. I can't get them out of my mind. But once we kick it, once we have sex, I'm done. I don't want to be with them anymore. And it's the whole thrill of the chase. So that's why we need to clarify our expectations. We need to find out more about this other person, because a lot of times people would say, just give up your virginity, just have sex with this person, and they'll stay with you. That's all they, and how many times we even have in our workbook, a girl, the guy kept saying, I want to have sex with you. I love you. I want to make love to you and everything. I'm always going to be there for you. And they were only together for 4 months. And as soon as she gave up her virginity, he left. She was 15. She was 15. So smart relationships. We don't want to have dumb relationships. Smart relationships would have what qualities? Do not rush into physical intimacy. Sometimes it's like you're holding wild horses. Don't rush into physical intimacy. Psychologists say it takes 1 year to begin to get to know somebody. It takes 3 years to pretty much get to know somebody. You've been through a lot together at that time. So don't rush into physical intimacy. Spend time in groups, people that have the same values as you, because I do know about groups that do a lot of other things. Spend time in groups with the same values as you, will be the likelihood of you being pressured into having sex. I never felt pressure from other people. I felt pressure from myself. So I try to stay away from those type of situations where it'd be difficult, because all behavior begins with thinking. So also know each other's families. Go and see each other's families. If they don't want you to meet their family, well, maybe this is just a good friend. This is somebody you can go out with and hang out. You shouldn't be kissing them or anything. Know their families, because usually that's where people learn their patterns of behavior. That's how they learn about commitment and family life is through their own families. Also care about and discuss each other's future. Care about somebody, even if it's a friend, all of this is not just intimate relationships. Best friends, people that you care about, your own relatives, care about and discuss each other's future. Try to draw them out, get them to think, share about things. Sometimes you'll be amazed at what you find out. Somebody that's done 25 years volunteer work with EMT, helping people, that really shows a lot of character. Then we have this other worksheet that I did email to you tonight. It's called the Real Love Character Test. I tell you, students love this. Again, this is usually high school through adults. And it says, this activity will help you look more objectively at the character of somebody you feel romantically attracted to. You're going to give a score of 1 to 5 for each question. 1 means no, never. 2 means seldom. 3 means sometimes. 4 means usually. And a 5 means yes, a lot, always. Now this, I met this Dr. Tom Licona, and he has a center, and he wrote this, the whole name of this character test is a character test, an essential aid to finding real love. And 100% of the time, whenever somebody got a really low score, like a 50 or like 40, a 19 one time, I said, tell me this is your ex. And they go, yeah, it was, because if the person scores 55 to 64, this person exhibits many good qualities. Scores 40 to 54, this person has potential, but they need to improve in several areas, or you need to learn more about them. Score 25 to 39, be careful. Warning, warning, warning. This person's character is very questionable. Scores less than 25, you're at high risk to be hurt in this relationship. So even if somebody gets like a perfect score, I would say that it's a very new romance and they're still under the influence of those drugs that go off in your brain, dopamine, phenylethylamine, and norepinephrine. Makes you feel high, euphoric. You don't need to eat, sleep. All you need to do is see them. So these are some questions. Does this person treat me with kindness and courtesy? Again, you're giving them a score, 1 through 5. Does this person ever shove, hit, or bully me in other ways? Is this person self-centered, always expecting to get their way? Does this person bring out the best in me? Do I feel happy after spending time together? Because sometimes you could go out on a date with somebody and it was like a job. You feel exhausted afterwards. Do they use drugs or alcohol? Do they look at pornography? Pornography is as addictive as cocaine. In some heads, it's as addictive as crack. The average age in America looking at porn is around 9 years old, during those developmental stages when people are learning their behavior through what they see modeled. It's very sad. 15 years ago, because I felt kind of embarrassed. The schools would separate the boys from the girls, and I would speak to the boys. And that 6th grade means like 9 and 10 years old. And I'd say, how many of you have friends you know who are looking at porn? I'm telling you, at least 85% of those little hands went up, and they're all pointing at each other and laughing. When I'm done with them, they go, Miss Linda, how can I stop? Is this person a hard worker? Are they patient and forgiving? These seems like very simple things, but believe me, people who are dating, let alone teenagers, but even adults, do you think they talk about these things? No, they let their feelings make their choices for them. And this is where we have a big problem. Now, I don't know if any of the kids know who Pebbles and Bam Bam is anymore, but they're a cute little couple. So we all seek love, but we need the wisdom how to make love last. This is the problem. So a lot of the things that we've already discussed can really help. Like why do so many people fail to achieve this? And a lot of times they lack the wisdom. This is another reason why our program discourages dating, one-on-one dating, going out. They don't even call it dating anymore. They called it dating, going out, cuffing, hanging out. Now it's talking. I had this mother, her girl was 9th grader, and she says, oh, do you have a boyfriend? She says, oh, no, we're just talking. And then 3 months later, she's pregnant because they're talking. That means they're having sex. So it's something. So one important thing that is good for people to understand is all relationships have stages. I have found in my experience, if I'm very attracted to somebody in the beginning, I need to leave the room and get my composure. And it's always a wrong relationship. If I'm not attracted to somebody in the beginning, I just, hi, how are you? Usually that person turns out really great. So why do we get attracted? Well, if it wasn't for attraction, we would be extinct. Without reproducing, the human race would become extinct. It's chemically based pheromones. Even they've tried to put these kind of pheromones in perfume, aftershave lotion to try to get, and I'm thinking, that's dangerous. It never works. But how dangerous if, because of somebody's scent, you're feeling these pheromones, you're not seeing what kind of person this is. You just feel like on drugs. So that's where this is really very strange. They feel like, oh, if you get attracted, then you're going to have sex and you'll stay together forever, right? So it's chemically based. Do people usually make good decisions in their life when they're high on drugs? No, they don't. That's how come it's good to wait until, even before like exclusively dating somebody, wait at least 3 or 4 months for these drugs to wear off. Like that's why some people will complain, oh man, I just don't feel the thrill anymore. It's not exciting. Yeah, because now you're in a real relationship. You are creating that excited feeling by things you accomplish together, goals and objectives. So does Mother Nature know whether that person you're attracted to is a jerk or a jerkette? Does Mother Nature know if that's a good person? No. you won't even know without some type of investigation. Cloud nine really cracks me up because my boss talks about, and I've been to his barbecues, he puts on his Bermuda shorts. He should only wear long pants. He puts on his Bermuda shorts, and then he had the charcoal, the old-fashioned type of barbecue, big mountain of charcoal, puts a whole can of lighter fluid on it. He says, man, we're going to cook 100 burgers today, And he stands like 10 feet away and he flips that match. And oh, man, the fire is just so warm and it's just amazing and so high. And then the fire burns out just as quickly as it exploded. Because it was just, we call it lighter fluid love. It ends just as quickly as it started. So basically, it's a romantic infatuation. It's a feeling of excitement that you have about somebody. You just feel like, oh, I'm on cloud nine. Scientists have found that when people are in this stage, they're in high levels of natural amphetamines. That's like speed, right? We call it phenylethylamine is the real hormone in the brain. In a sense, when you fall in love with somebody, you're really on drugs, natural drugs produced by your own brain. So basically, there's also higher levels of dopamine and norepinephrine, which increases the sexual drive. Again, Mother Nature wants you to meet, mate, and procreate. She does not know if this is somebody that you want to have a lifelong commitment with. So are you enrolled at Dopamine High? A lot of people are. Brain chemicals that give a reward for exhilarating, that means exciting, but sometimes unhealthy, and I would say self-destructive behaviors, or even destructive to other people. They can make people really come on to somebody and really try to get them, but then once they get them, they're done. The thrill and the drug excitement was more about the chase than actually the real person or the relationship. So it increases behaviors to achieve the same good feelings, just like drugs. You think, if I do this more, I'm going to get more feelings, so you really want to be with them more. The brain is actually being trained, especially as teenagers, because again, our brain is developing pretty progressively through the age of 25. At the age of 25, the part of our brain that really stops to think about consequences, if I do this, this might happen. That's when that kicks in at 25. So you can see our college students, why they do so many dumb things. Your brain is trained to seek rewards. It is. That's not a bad thing. But it damages your ability to bond in a committed relationship. When we sexually condition our brain, I'm with this person, it's exciting. Now I'm done with them after a couple of months. Now I'm excited by this person, so I go be with them. It's like chasing drugs, chasing your fix. Like heroin addicts that stick a needle in their arm. That's your exhilaration. You're looking for rewards. Reward is a good thing, but this intense, where you totally not, you become almost a sociopath in a way. You like, look, I just don't care about you anymore. Of course I cheated on you. I'm not in love with you anymore. So you, then later, you want to commit to somebody. You want a lifelong commitment. You want to be just with this one person. You've pretty much damaged beyond repair, in many cases, your ability to bond with somebody in a real way. After even a year or two, they just say, I'm not feeling you anymore. And that's what they're talking about. So they're treating people as an object in a game. They're not thinking that way. It's just how they've always been. Same people with porn. They can only get aroused and sexually excited by looking at porn with their partner, without their partner. And that's what they expect. So rewards are a good thing, but they should be healthy. Like I used to get really excited about getting an A on my report card. I get really excited by doing a successful presentation, or when I have a really bad obstacle, finding a way to be successful after overcoming that obstacle. So it's different ways to get rewards. So this again, with this lighter fluid love, for further details, we have an inaccurate view of each other. Like my boss thought this big mountain of charcoal, whole can of lighter fluid, we're gonna be cooking a lot of burgers. You have an inaccurate view of each other. You're only focused on their external traits, looking at them You feel so excited, you just almost in another world. It's very temporary, and that's what's very important. A young person does not have a frame of reference. Oh yeah, in another relationship, I thought the same way and it didn't work out. They don't have that. And they only have the movies, and they have their friends who are knuckleheads, so it's very temporary. Same, you see a lot of people doing things. They're thinking just in the moment. They're not thinking, how about in the future? It's very needy and desperate. They're always, they need you to be with them, to give them affirmations. They're so desperate. Your other interests suffer. You're not seeing your friends. You're not doing your homework. It's just always about being with this person. There was a high school I would do, and I'd get there very early in the morning because my first class was at 8:15. And all up and down, it was in the basement, all up and down all the rows of lockers, there was all these kids, the students sitting there hugging and kissing and all of this. They weren't doing their homework. All they could think of is just being with each other. It's also demanding and impatient. You're trying to really get this person to only focus on you, and there's something wrong in the relationship. You can't figure it out, so it's got to be them. Very demanding, very impatient. It oftentimes leads in bad directions, especially with the immature teenage brain. They just can't figure this out. And the problem is, when we get into these behaviors and habits over and over and over again, as young people under the age of even 22, as adults, we keep doing the same thing, thinking we'll get a different outcome. It's very sad. I see it all the time. So then sex becomes a substitute for true intimacy. I've talked to guys who said the greatest intimacy they ever had was holding hands with somebody they really cared about, going for a long walk, and they listened to them. They thought this was just amazing. So when people decide to abstain from sex, or maybe they've had sex and they said, no, I'm waiting, I'm not going to do this anymore, it's very easy for them to flesh out real relationships. And the fact that they're not having sex becomes something very real for them. So there's a lot of pros and cons of sexual bonding. Physical and sexual touch leads to feelings of closeness and attachment. It does feel good, especially when you're so attracted to somebody, and especially with the teenager, because their brain is high on drugs. They're very vulnerable, these natural neurohormones. And they don't have the ability to think of consequences. They're very idealistic. But the other person, they may not feel the same way and just leave. It's devastating. When you've bonded with somebody at any age, but especially young, it's like a mini divorce. You're already thinking about the names of the children, the picket fence, you're thinking of spending a lot. It's like a mini divorce. That's why when they see that partner with somebody else, they just flip out. They can't believe it. They just can't relate. Another possibility, like with the previous exercise we did, the other person doesn't leave and they treat you badly, but you still feel attached and just keep thinking they're going to change and that the love will be the way it was before. And it's just really sad. It's very tragic. A lot of damage. We have a lot of domestic violence in this country. So when romance ebbs, this Dr. Tyler, I think his name's Hendricks. What's his name? Yeah, I apologize. I don't have his name offhand. But when he said this, I go, are you crazy? When romance ebbs, it goes away. Real love begins. No. And I'm not really romantic, but you want that kind of niceness, But this couples advisor, he does pre-marriage counseling. I attended a lot of his workshops. He says if they're still when people want counseling from him, couples, he says if they're still in the romance stage and have not had their first argument yet, I tell them come back in a year, because he wants to see what was the argument about, what led up to it, and how did you resolve it. So if they haven't even had an argument, they're still in the fuzzy wuzzy stage. They just see no problem. So he wants, when the romance ebbs, what he's really talking about is those neurochemicals, that should ebb, and you rebuild those natural feelings because of things you go through as a couple together. So sex and brain conditioning. Constant viewing of anything or anybody during a sexual experience creates a sexual desire for that person or object. Sadly, a lot of men, this happens to them with porn, but also with both sexes. Early sexual experiences are imprinted on the brain, and you maybe can't even stand this person, but there's a part of them that's still with you, and it can really crowd the bedroom. You just think about all these other people in a good way or a bad way. It's very bad. So lasting love that lasts a lifetime must be created. It's not a magic wand. It's not just euphoria. You have a realistic view of each other, and you care about each other anyway. You really look at internal traits. Have you ever had this experience? You look at somebody like, oh man, it's so hard to look at. But then you talk to them and you go, oh my gosh, this is a real person. I can't believe it. And after you hear their internal traits, their character, all of a sudden they start looking very desirable to you. So it's like, I don't know if I've had this happen many times, even in high school. I started admiring people's internal traits. It's also lasting and constant. A lot of people like this kind of love, up and down, up and down, up and down, like a roller coaster. And I try to tell young people, having a stable relationship can be very sexy, very stable. Stability is a wonderful thing. It's lasting. They're not going to just come home and dump you. It's lasting and constant. It's giving. It's sacrificial. They're really thinking about you. Your other interests prosper. They tell you, go to college, get your degree, finish high school, do all these things. I know my husband, he says, grandma duty comes first. He loves to spend weekends with me, but if my daughters need me, because I have new grandbabies, he says, go, I'll drive you there. It's very other interests prosper. Whereas if he was the other way, what do you mean you're going to go over there? It's a 2-hour drive. What would happen to my family? Also, it's patient. It's not just jumping down people's throat because they, tripped on something. It leads in good directions. We're shoulder to shoulder looking in the same direction. It's a very different, it just grows and grows. It's so interesting. So why is marriage important? Well, when we meet next week, that's what we're going to talk about. Can you feel loved and secured in an uncommitted relationship where that person can leave? In California, where I'm from, it was very common. People would have marriage ceremonies to love and to cherish each other unless our feelings change. To me, that doesn't sound, it's just like my child. I'm going to love you unless I don't feel you anymore, then I'll turn you in for a new one. So the ingredients necessary for full growth and healing: attention, concentration, security, time, deepest intimacy, and the full mirroring of ourselves. I see myself through this other person are possible only in marriage. We cannot heal ourselves. We can't not heal in an open-end, precarious relationship where the person could leave at any time. So this was Harville Hendricks. He's a big counselor. So that's ending our first hour for part 4. How did you feel about this? Any comments? Everybody give a comment. Vicki, give me a comment. I saw you taking notes.
I guess for me, it's kind of silly, but I've been married 43 years, and it just makes me reflect and go back to, when my husband and I were dating, and then all the years of things, good and bad, that God's helped us through. And sometimes it's a lot better now than it was years ago. I mean, it changes, there's changes, but there's growth. So just made me think about all that.
Yeah, and that's what people don't experience. What you experience, we grow up. A healthy marriage, it forces you to grow up and mature. And then you think, boy, I'm glad I don't have those knuckleheads I used to be with. I'm lucky. I got the real deal. Now, that's very nice. Linda Flores, do you have any comment?
I thought it was a great presentation. I like the part about the lighter fluid love and everything. And I didn't realize that the brain doesn't really start thinking about consequences until the age of 25. It's incredible.
That's established fact. I've heard it like so many times now. Yeah.
Great presentation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. How about you, Bergie? Any comment?
Yeah, I wished I had some education like that earlier. You know,
Yeah.
we go through trial and error till we figure out what works and doesn't work.
And then we give up sometimes. We settle.
Well, we're hurting, and then finally, I guess we rise above, and then we'll fall down again, and then we'll rise up again. And
Yeah.
you know, relationship skills is really so crucial. It's unfortunate that that is not part of the general education for people.
Yeah.
I would.
Because that's what's going to make them happy.
Yeah, it's really essential.
Mm-hmm. Also, how to be a good person. People always thinking about how somebody else is. Well, how am I? You know, so it's a, yeah, it's, I love that video though. That really gets me. How about Gideon? You got any comments? Turn on your mic. You got a mic?
I put it on the chat.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I like the difference between romance and real love. That's absolutely true. Yeah. So I definitely agree, and I'm a witness to that.
Yay! You have a lucky wife.
There we go.
And then the romance means something very different. When you really have a real relationship, it doesn't mean you don't have romance, but if you, the other stuff is kind of just you're getting in a relationship, you're attracted, but then afterwards, you know, it's very different. You know, yeah, that's exciting. How about Linda? We have so many Lindas. What should I call you? I'm Linda D. There's Linda Flores. Are you Linda number 1? You need to unmute.
I was trying to find the button.
Any reflections?
Yeah, Linda F. But that's
Okay.
another Linda F. Yeah, I think Father protected us from a lot of this roller coaster stuff because we joined the church, but we have residuals, and you know, we're working through those even after 40 years.
True.
Of, you know, but this is really great information. And I think especially for young people to understand stages. Yeah.
Yeah, everything. Nature goes through stages, everything. If you're doing sports, it goes through stages, education. And it's just that those feelings are so strong. Yeah, that's really true. I was in a very unhealthy marriage for 30 years, but it never stopped me. That was part of my healing, was just helping other people not go through that. And that motivated me a lot. And then even my own children, I don't want you to go through the things that I did. And we need to be better choosers. And that's what my motto is. We need to be better choosers. And this is kind of a roadmap. It's a roadmap. So we should never beat ourselves up what we went through, because, you know, it's a messed up world, you know, but we can always make a positive change and help people, you know. And then is there anybody else? I'm not seeing anybody else, or is that everybody?
That's it.
Okay, cool. That's wonderful. So I'm really glad everybody could stay for this hour. Do we have any questions or anything? We're going to continue in part 4. This part is really, really important, and you'll see it in part 4, the script that I emailed you, so you don't have to worry about notes. But I'll try to zip through it a little more quickly. We'll see how it goes next week. And again, my offer still stands. If you email me, I will send you the big book, this nice book. Oh, let me put myself up here. You can have the nice big book, the relationship intelligence book, also the other book that's a student workbook. It's Love Smarts. Usually some of those we do in every grade, some of the work book activities, and then mostly it's middle school. And then, some other things and stuff like that. I wanted to mention also, and I did in an email, people who complete the course and become certified, you get 25% off of everything on his website, which is kind of cool because we used to get a 10% discount. So he's just so impressed with everybody. And again, it's all about finding your niche, what you feel comfortable doing, especially in the start, just getting out and doing it. So we can talk more about all those kind of issues too. And I loved Carol's suggestions, really, because I'm that kind of person. I don't want to overburden people, but everything that she was saying, I'm thinking, no, that's my cup of tea. What people, because I just figured it out, and really I was given a projector, and I wasn't even given an extension cord, a projector and a carousel, wheel. We didn't have laptops. We didn't have PowerPoints. This was in the 90s, So it's really great. And this is things that I develop. I carry a bag. We can't say, well, students should all have something to write with. They're in school. I'm sorry, they don't, and I do ask for my pencils back, and I don't get them all back, so it's just a lot of things. Having paper, take out a piece of notebook paper. Oh, I forgot my notebook. And I'm thinking, and you want to have sex? I don't think so. So yeah, I've been through, there's very little I haven't experienced so far, and I desperately want to share all of that. And it's an ongoing process as well. If you have questions or, things, because I had a couple of emails where people didn't understand something. It was because I hadn't addressed it. And quite frankly, I didn't have the answer because I'm just doing the training. I don't know all the background. So now I do understand, more the business aspect, different things like that. So anyways, a pleasure having all of you here, and just shoot me off an email. I'll send you a sheet of little labels with whatever you want, your name, your phone number or email, and it's say Love Smarts on it. I put it on all my equipment as well. And a few brochures so you can see what they look like in your hands. I'm trying to get from Dr. Panzer how much brochures are, because much cheaper if he's buying, a few thousand at a time than if we try to. And they're wonderful. They're wonderful. Right, Vicki? They're wonderful brochures. Yes, you like, yeah, great colors. So I'm going to let everybody go. It's 8:12, and we'll see you next week. And if anything pops up, just let me know, okay? Is everybody okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very much. Appreciate.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, this was a good one,
Thank you.
too. Very people have less stress. She'll have to show me how to. Anyway, stop sharing. That's what I have.